Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Hey everyone, Fred Superabo here again. Thanks for checking out my channel, where we are and always will be the home of common sense occultism and practical magic. Thank you for joining me today. Really quick, if you're new and you haven't already done so, you know I'm going to say it, please look below, find the big red button that says subscribe and hit that for me now. Then look to the right, you'll see a bell. You want to make sure you hit that bell. That way you are notified each and every time we upload new content to this channel, and you can watch it as soon as humanly possible. And one last thing, as always, please remember to like and share this and all videos. Thank you very, very much in advance for that. It goes a long way, and it is much appreciated, so thank you. Okay, down to the topic, which is, as you can see, devotion, as it pertains specifically to the magician and the magical path, spiritual journey. This is part two of the devotion. I couldn't get it all done in the first video, and I kind of went off on a little ramble spree and got into a lot of theory and personal feelings and things of that nature. Where I wanted to get to more practical things that you could actually do and suggestions that work for both the beginner and the adept alike. So hence we are doing a part two. So welcome. If you haven't watched part one, I encourage you to go back and watch that either before or after this video. I'd like to think there's a lot of good information there. So I'll put the link to that video in the description below, along with a bunch of cool other stuff that you should check out. So, but today, part two, devotional aspects of the magical path and how they relate to spirituality and the magician specifically. I'm not going to rehash everything that I said in video one. Like I said, what I want to do is go over some specific things, some specific devotional things and suggestions that you can do as either, as I said, a beginner or an experienced adept magician. A lot of these are things that I personally do, and I've found them very helpful. Let me, as a side note, let me just up front and say this. This is not an end-all, be-all model. I do not claim that what I put forth here is perfect for everyone or that it is flawless in any way. This is simply stuff that has worked for me and has proven to be successful for not just myself, but for other magicians and witches and the like on this crazy crooked path of magic and spirituality. So success is thy proof. Again, it's ultimately what works for you. This is not a guarantee that it will work for you, but some form of it might. So I encourage you to try these things out, or at least use them as a framework to building your own practice. All of my videos, when I put out practical information, what I refer to as practical information, meaning stuff that you can actually use, not just talking about the meanings of things, but stuff you can physically, mentally do in your practice that will achieve results and growth. So, as I was saying, I do not claim that these are the only way to do things, but what I do try to get out of all my practical videos, what I try to put forth, I should say, from my practical videos, is at least a framework, a structure, where anyone that watches this video can plug in things that they do that relate to their practice, and it can enhance their practice, their magical path, their spiritual experience. So most, if not all, of the things I suggest in my videos can be adapted in, I make sure that they can be adapted in a certain way so that it can fit the magician's paradigm. I don't want to overuse the term eclectic, but it's very eclectic in nature. So again, I'm not saying when I recommend things that they must be done this way, but I'd rather to give an umbrella or a foundation, that's a good word, a foundation, a framework for your own practice. So just keep that in mind with this and all practical videos. But specifically talking about devotion, and we define devotion in the first video, and talking about religious observance and a love and a passion for things, and that passion coming through religious ritualized action, whether it be a certain practice or to a specific deity, spirit, etc., etc., etc. So, keeping that in mind, there's all sorts of things you can do, and this is really cool and great. And what I do is I'm just going to start. We'll just wing it. I don't have an outline for this video. I'm very much going intuitively. But these are things, like I said, that have worked for me, and the things that I do. A lot of them are things that I actually do, and I encourage you to try them out as well. So, number one, prayer is important. Okay, let's dispel all these the prayer is a dirty word type of thing. As Lon Duquette would say, it's okay to pray. And it very much is. It's okay to pray, even if you came from a Judeo-Christian type Abrahamic faith and you have a very bad taste in your mouth left from the word prayer because you felt like it was this subservient action towards this man with a long white beard that was going to punish you if you did not do so. Get rid of that. Prayer has existed across all religions, all faiths, everything since day one. So let's get that out of the way. Prayer is okay, and it is essential. It is essential. Even if you don't want to call it prayer, it is what it is. You are physically, you are voicing either with actual words or mentally a litany of praise or requests or commands, statements, we'll just say, to some sort of energy or higher power, God, spirit, again, in a ritualized action. It may come with a ritualized action or it may not, but no matter what you're doing with it, it's still, at the end of the day, it is prayer. So let's get past that. I will be using the term prayer, and just note that prayer is important. So that is one of the first things that you can do as a devotional act on your magical path. Now, this may seem like, common sense or very beginner information, but again, I just feel it needs to be said because it is such a core foundation of the work. Magic consists of prayers, invocations, this type of magic anyway. Of course, you could say, well, chaos magic is different and blah, 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 text to deity out, and only gives the essential thing, and prayer is just dressing things up and blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm sorry if you feel that way, but I believe, and many other magicians believe, that prayer is essential, and it may be flair, and it may be dressing things up, but, again, success is site proof, and it has been proven to work. Whether I'm wrong in viewing the spirit model of magic or whatever, and it's not, and I'm incorrect, that does not change the fact that seeing things that way and praying to these beings, entities, energies, spirits, whatever, does make some sort of a difference. And it has just been my personal experience and many others. And a lot of people are crossing over, believe it or not. They're crossing over to see this point of view, that there is a potential relationship there between yourself, your spirit, your soul, and these other entities outside yourself. So, I'm not going to get too much into that, but my point is, pray. Praying is important. It's the first thing you can do. It's one of the simplest things you can do as an act of devotion. So prayer every day. If you're going to undertake some of these larger scale magical operations in your along your journey, your magical career, as it were, if you're following the directions, we get something. If we're putting something together, we're told to, get out the piece of paper, the directions. Anyone who's, at least partially sane is going to follow the directions. Otherwise, if you guess and you pick and choose, the thing you're putting together can fall apart. Well, it's the same thing with magic. So if we follow the directions, prayer is usually one of those directions that we are told to follow. So just know that when you tend to undertake some of these bigger operations, there is a period of purification and prayer and sometimes fasting. It all depends on what you're doing, but prayer is always a part of it. So if you want to do advanced forms of magic, then it's best to already have this practice as a part of your daily regimen, as your magical, your spiritual and magical workout, your daily workout. Make it a part of it. And it should be familiar to most, unless you grew up in an atheistic household and were told that, prayer is stupid and silly, which, 9.9999 of anyone watching this video, I can guarantee you, did not grow up in that type of household, because most people they believe in something, and we're told to say their prayers before they go to bed, whether they're Christian, Muslim, or Jew, or whatever, Mormon, Jehovah's Witness, Buddhist, anything. There's been some sort of prayer embedded in your mind, your psyche, from the moment that you knew and could understand words from your parents or whoever raised you. So this should be a fairly easy thing to adopt. Some people may have been doing it already. Most likely you have been before you even decided to get into magic. So nothing changes. So number one, I'm not going to go on and on about it, but prayer. And I would think, since if we're all CSOs here, we're common sense occultists, we can see how prayer fits into the magical paradigm and why it is essential to do so, and how it just makes sense. We don't get rid of that now that we're spiritual people. We're spiritual people now. We don't do things like prayer anymore. That's just not intelligent. It's not scientific. No, it's not the way it works. Even though we're occultists and magicians and we are more mystical, we see religion in a mystical sense now, the occult meaning behind things. That does not mean that we eliminate those beneficial devotional acts that are at the religion at its mundane level, which are things like prayer. Okay, enough said. Number one, prayer. Good thing to do. So, to elaborate on that, when I say prayer, it does not have to be, it can be a generalized prayer. It can be, if you are working within the AA system of Magick and spiritual growth, it can be a prayer to your holy guardian angel or the daimon, to try and connect and reach that goal, that ultimate goal of achieving knowledge and conversation of this entity, even if you believe it to be your higher self. Prayer to that being is very beneficial, and it is essential if you are going to work the Opera Melon method of achieving that knowledge and conversation. So again, prayer to your angel. If you don't come from the traditional Western ceremonial magic background, and you don't like the term holy guardian angel, if you want to use if you believe it's your higher self and you want to use the term higher self, that's fine. If you want to use the Greek term of the daimon with a capital D, that's fine too. I use that myself. If you want to, if you're more leaning towards just, you know, modern times, new aginess, and you want to call it a spirit guide, well, you know, while I would say it's a definitely, the HGA is a spirit guide with a capital S and a capital G, the ultimate spirit guide, maybe, but you could use that term as well. The point is trying to establish that connection, that relationship with the whatever you come to understand it as, is that light that is guiding you towards your highest good, your ultimate life's purpose, your true will, and your development to be the greatest version that you can be while on this plane and continue on forever. So, prayer to the HGA, we'll say that. Another thing that you can do daily, and I encourage you to do, daily ritual to a specific god and or planetary energy. Number 3. I believe we're on 3. I don't have, this isn't a top 10 list. I'm just using the numbers for general purposes. So, this, again, I touched on this in the first video, but if you choose to do this, this is not necessarily a total, this is not enslavement, Thelemites. This is not, I am completely subordinate and I am doing the same thing with Zeus as Christians do with Jesus and Yahweh, Jehovah. This is not the same thing. It doesn't have to be, at least. I mean, if it be your will, you can very much do it and see it that way, but it's not. This is not some form of groveling or anything like that, because being a magician by nature is an empowering thing. And to have that empowered persona, you need confidence in your magic, and confidence and groveling and this whole thing is, they don't always go hand in hand. Now, there's a big difference between groveling and respect and reverence. So we have to kind of find, you know, that ground. We don't want to come off as, you know, oh, I'm this measly blah, 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 because, you know, hey, if they're a deity capable of all things, you know, like, really, like, why bother listening to me, you know? So you want to have a confidence that you are a magician, but you need to approach this, even if it is simple prayer, with reverence, with with respect, a respectful attitude. And this transcends all boundaries and entities of magic on the astral plane and the 4 worlds and all that stuff. This device will carry you through all of that. Approach any being with respect and a reverential attitude. So prayer is not the place to be cocky. Prayer, you know, it's not necessarily the place to be, oh, with me, I'm so lowly. It's not the place for that either. It's a conversation in many ways, but my point is that you can, and it goes a long way towards these advanced magical practices, to pray to a specific entity on a daily basis and establish a relationship, a dialogue, even if you don't hear anything back. You know, get that started. It's an important thing. It's important. I promise suggestions. One of the things that I do, as far as a prayer and a daily thing on that same deity line, the Ancient Egyptians, as we know, we don't know everything about the religion, but we do know a few things, and it's not a few things, we know quite a bit. And we know they incorporated magic into their religions, and we know a lot more now about their temple worship and things of that nature. And one of the things that we know is that they applied specific deities to specific seasons of the year. So one of the things that I do is, depending on what season we are in, and I don't mean spring, winter, fall, summer. I don't mean that. I mean zodiacal seasons. Not going to get into astrology on this video, but we will get into that another time in the future. But they applied the astrological seasons to specific deities, sometimes more than one, but you know, there's you can find it, you can research this, and you can find such and such is related to such and such god or goddess, blah blah blah. You know, Taurus is this goddess, this blah blah blah. So that being said, one of the things that I do is, during that period of time, one of my daily prayers, one of my devotions is I say a hymn. A hymn doesn't mean I'm singing, but it's a hymn, a prayer, an invocation, and a litany, a little mini ritual, which is just words for the most part, as well as an offering of incense and water, lighting a candle, and some oils. Sometimes I use actual food, such as, depending on the god or goddess. But you know, grains, oats, some of the similar things that would have been offered in ancient Egypt, the same as they would do. So that's one thing you can do. That's one practice that I do each astrological season, every day. When I'm doing ritual, I will pray to that specific god or goddess that is applicable to that season. There's also certain rituals that correspond with certain seasons, and seeing myself trying to adopt a pagan construct, since I am a polytheist, this is just one of the things that helps me in my religious aspect. Even though I'm a Thelemite, but I am very much a polytheist, and I am all things pagan for the most part. This does not mean that I am opposed to praying to the Christian God or saints or angels, for that matter. I'm very much okay with that. I just see that as another God, and angels as, you know, in a way, other gods or demigods. So, and there's various systems that involved angels, spirits, demons, you know, the whole thing under the auspices of, you know, the Holy Trinity, and these are all just gods to me. So I see things that way, and that, you know, for people that are afraid to do Christian magic or whatever, I encourage you to look at it in that sense. And if you're a true polytheist, it shouldn't be a problem for you. So again, another thing along those lines with devotional aspects, I will use actual prayers from the Bible, Psalms, the Our Father. These are all excellent, very magical prayers at their core. Hey guys, sorry about that. And this had some technical difficulties. What had happened was, I finished that video, and I ended up, for whatever reason, I don't know, as I've mentioned before, I am not the most technologically inclined person. So what happened was, I lost about 15 minutes of that last video that you're watching. So rather than trying to edit it and do all this stuff and make it look like it never happened, I figured I would just say, you know, this is what happened, and move forward. So it's a different day at a different time, thus the different outfit, and yeah, so here we go. Also, as I mentioned earlier in this video, and in previous videos, I work very much intuitively, and I think doing things based on feeling and intuition is very important in the spiritual path a lot of the times. And what this little technical mishap caused me to realize is that this topic is it's a very big topic, and it deserves even more than 2 parts. Now, I'm not going to do a part 3 and 4 and all that, but what I'd like to say is that we will continue talking about devotional practices, and I want to make a series out of it where, you know, it doesn't end here, and we can get I can get feedback from you guys, and we can go into it even more in depth than we are right now. But so, alas, I came to that realization, and I think it's a very good thing, and perhaps maybe that's why it messed up. You know, maybe there's other things that work here. So, like I said, after a period of anger, of losing the 15 or so minutes that I worked on it, I figured we would just move forward, and I'm trying to, as with all things, look at the positive and how we can be. How you can move forward and how this could be beneficial. So, yes, back on task and topic, what we were talking about before, we talked about doing religious devotion as it pertains to magic in a Judeo-Christian sense, in a monotheistic sense, and we also talked about a polytheistic sense, and doing different things. One other thing I wanted to bring up that is very important to the development of the magician is planetary energies. Planetary, zodiacal, astrological, pick your term, whether you use astrological or zodiacal. All of those are a big part of the Western ceremonial magic tradition. These energies are important, and as you progress, if you're a beginner, as you progress into doing more advanced styles of magic, one of the things that you're going to learn and be introduced to, and hopefully you're interested in, is planetary magic. So I wanted to talk about that as it pertains to devotion. How can we get started with these planetary energies and learn to grow, and how does it relate to devotion in a religious sense with magic? So we have these planets and planetary energies, and there's various different things that correspond to the planets, and again, the zodiac signs, stars, and things like that. But specifically the planets is what I'm talking about today, because we're doing things you can do as devotional practices. So one thing you can do, before I get started with that, just to piggyback on what I was just saying, is that there are deities, gods, that correspond to each of the planets. They're actually named after the planets. Pretty sure everyone's aware of that. If not, they're named after the planets. I mean, the planets are named after the gods. So this is yet another way you can connect with deity in a religious sense, in a devotional sense, and show that love and fervor, and how it can also play into your prayer practice and your daily magical regimen. So one of the things, just to give some examples, another one of the things that I do, and you know, this may seem silly, but one of the things I do is that the corresponding days to the planets, as Sunday corresponds with the sun, obviously, and the moon is Monday, Tuesday is Mars, Wednesday is Mercury, Thursday Jupiter, Friday Venus, and Saturday Saturn. Okay, so we got that out of the way. One of the things I do is I wear the corresponding magical color in some way on the appropriate day. So, like I said, that may seem silly, but it helps me in the mundane sense, in the physical sense, to connect with these energies. So, no matter what day it is, if it's like today, I'm recording this on a Thursday. Whether it gets out today or not, I don't know, but this is a Thursday. So I am wearing purple, which is the color of Jupiter. Yes, we could use blue as well, but we're using purple. So, so on Thursday, no matter what week it is or what day it is, somewhere on my body, I am going to be wearing a Jupiterian color. Same thing with Friday. I'm going to wear a color that relates to Venus. And again, and I'm not saying that this is unnecessary, and some people might think it's a little bit overkill, but I think it's pretty cool. And it's just something small that you can do to help further the connection, both mentally and physically, and it helps me. So take it as you will. Staying on that whole planetary style, the planetary pattern, we have the gods of the planets. So, in keeping with the color scheme thing, you might, another thing again that I do, and I suggest that you try it out, is saying the Orphic hymn to the appropriate deity of the corresponding day. So on Sunday, you would cite the Orphic hymn to Helios or the sun. If you're doing Resh already, you might not, you should be doing that daily anyway to connect with the solar energy, since, it's just so important to the magical tradition. But, no harm in doing the Orphic hymn to the sun as well on a Sunday. And then, of course, on Monday, you can do the one to the moon. The Orphic hymns are these prayers, that literal hymns, and they rhyme, and they're beautiful, beautiful language, and it just they're not very long. It's not going to take all day, but it's something you can do, and it will help you to connect, to have that beginning, that religious devotion to these type of energies or gods or spirits, and this can help you further on down the line should you choose to work with these energies, which at some point in time, I can pretty much guarantee you're going to need one of these planetary energies for your magic. So why not have that connection, at least on some level? You may not hear anything back, but most, people from the Abrahamic faith, if they're sitting there praying to Jesus or whatever, they don't hear anything back anyway. So don't see that as a sign of failure. This is not a full-blown evocation or invocation style ritual. This is a simple prayer, and it is a devotional practice. So let's take it as what it is. So just again, these are small little steps that you can do, but they go a long way. Now, I don't want to overwhelm anyone if it seems like I'm spitting out a whole bunch of different things, like you must do this. This is not necessary. Again, let me reiterate. These are just suggestions that I know to work for me, that have been beneficial for me, and that I know have been beneficial to others. I'm not saying you have to do all of these at the same time or in the same period of your life, but try some of them out if you'd like. There's no harm in it. So, again, another thing you can do is to, connect with these planetary energies, show devotion to these gods in this way. And again, I believe I've already mentioned this, but this is not, I'm going to say it again, this is not a subservient, I'm taking a blood oath to goddess A or god B or C, D, E, or F. This is not this. This is not I am devoting myself solely to working with this entity. They are my matron goddess, my patron god, and I shan't work with anyone else. from this moment henceforth. It's not like that. So now I'm not making fun of people who choose to do that, because that can be beneficial for some. Some people really connect with one type of energy and they don't think they need any more. And they, in this incarnation, this may be that type of energy that they need, and it makes sense for them to be fully dedicated to that. Now, as far as my tradition goes and how I see things, I don't think that's necessarily beneficial. To limit yourself, I don't want to say limit yourself, but to limit yourself to just one thing, to sign a never-ending, contract, as it were, for one thing, one type of energy. You want to keep your options open, but and there are those, especially sometimes in the Wiccan tradition, there are people who will, at least in word, maybe not through ritual, but at least in word, they will say, you'll see a lot of it on YouTube. You'll see, why I chose so-and-so as my matron goddess, or why so-and-so is my patron. A lot of times they don't match. They're not consorts. Go figure. But anyway, that's your choice. If you choose to do something like that, I would encourage you to research it and to really be sure before you make any type of commitment, especially if it's a magical commitment. Be sure of what you're doing, because there's not a lot of going back in the realm of the spirit world and spiritual contracts and such. There's not really many loopholes and things like there are in a modern day court of law. So be sure of what you're doing, and don't make any rash decisions. That's a good piece of advice for anyone that's getting involved with anything. But especially when it comes to magic and spiritual decisions, you don't want to rush into anything. You want to think for yourself. You want to research, and you want to make sure you are doing what is ultimately right for the best version of yourself, and that is putting you towards doing your life's purpose. So, okay. That being said, we'll move on. But yeah, it's a great thing. Naturally, you're going to feel more connected to certain deities or spirits or whatever than others. As you can look around, my temple. I did a temple tour video before, very brief. Didn't get into a whole lot of it for personal reasons, but because let me elaborate on that. I don't think that. When it comes to your magic, you necessarily need to show everything out there publicly, but showing pictures here and there, that's fine. So just another little piece of advice. But again, my point is, as you can see, you can kind of see some of the stuff that I'm into, ancient Egypt. And then I have a specific altar to Hecate behind me right here. She is very near and dear to my heart. And just an awesome goddess, and probably going to do a video on her in the near future when I feel I have made a piece of content that is worthy enough of her, to her. I will put that out. But anyway, my point is that you will feel special connections to certain entities, especially if you're in the polytheistic model. The spirit model, you're going to feel connection, and you will, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing to show these, to do these types of devotional practices to that specific god or goddess that you feel drawn to or that calls to you. This is very important, in my opinion. So again, check this all out for yourself. But in my opinion, that it's a good thing. And again, this is not human slavery to a god or goddess. This is showing a form of love and ultimately making you a better magic practitioner, a better person. And yeah, so just again, that's another thing you can do, working with these planetary energies. You can also, if you come from any tradition, I was going to say a folk magic type tradition, you could work, you could pray to the ancestors, but you can do this across any any tradition really. A familiar ancestral form of worship is very positive in Magic, and I didn't understand that a few years ago, but I've really come to appreciate it and see the benefit in it. It kind of went over my head, I guess. But so I encourage you to look into that as well. Look into setting up a devotional ancestral type altar, or a hero altar, as I call it. Now, this isn't, I don't like to call it hero worship, but along the line of ancestors, this does not necessarily have to be your Uncle Bill or Aunt Jane or whoever. This can, go back. It doesn't necessarily have to be specific. And we'll do a video on how to set something like that up in the future. But the term ancestors is very much a bulk term, in my opinion. And I lump heroes in with that too, as spiritual heroes, spiritual ancestors, as I like to call them. So, people, not to mix East and West, but this is very popular in Eastern religious traditions. For those of you if anyone is familiar with martial arts at all, you walk into a dojo, you see usually a picture of a sensei or one of the older teachers that has passed on, and this is very much a form of hero worship. They have kind of deified this person who's made an impact on the art that you're practicing, and specifically as it pertains to your lineage, your family lineage within that martial art. So we honor them, we bow to them before and at the end of class. It is very much a form of devotion and ancestral appreciation and worship. So again, that's another thing that you can do as a devotion to connect, and these spirits will help you. You can develop a relationship with them. This will progress just, again, through something simple like prayer and offering. This will take you very far in your magical career. As simple as this stuff is, it's so beneficial. Check it out, I'm telling you. So again, that's another thing you can do. Along the same lines, if you have a family saint, if you come from, more Abrahamic faith or Judeo-Christian type thing, if you have a saint that is really connected to your family, this is another thing you can choose to connect to as a devotional practice. And again, that being said as well, for the polytheists and those who lean pagan, we know that from ancient pagan religions, we know that there was a household god. You had your state god in most countries, or your city god. That was kind of like, this is the depending who was in power and whatnot. This is the big guy in the pantheon. But we know from artifacts and seeing these relics that households had their own household deity that wasn't necessarily the same as the state god. So and you could say this is kind of like the holy guardian angel too. I'm not saying that, but that connection could be made. The idea of a personal type god. But again, this is something that relates to devotion. A personal family type god or spirit that is worked with, that is called upon and prayed to. So again, it's all, if you see how it all kind of comes back around, it's all devotion, and it's all spirit work, and it's all working, beginning with prayer as well too. Of course, I'm not, again, these are suggestions. These aren't you must do. And these aren't, I'm obviously not, we'd be here all day if I was going to list, oh, you must do this is how you start, and blah, 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 and yada, yada, yada. So this is, again, these are suggestions of things that you can try, just to try and get everyone to see that this is important, and I would encourage you to do it. So again, the planetary energies, ancestral deities, family gods, angels. A lot of people feel an affinity towards a specific archangel or planetary angel. This can all be done, and it's all beneficial towards progressing spiritually and as a magician, because again, ultimately, practices and things that I mention here, they are the goal of these practices is to begin to feel the energies and then learn to progress onto higher forms of magic so that you can use these energies and you can cause change through conformity with the will. So, I've rambled on long enough, I believe, and I think we have a good base. Oh, no, never mind. I got one more thing, another thing. Before I forget, this is a little hidden note here that I've never heard anyone else talk about on YouTube anyway. Again, I'm not trying to mix East and West too much, but they do coincide a lot. And in the yogic traditions, we have what's called mantra, or mantra meditations, or chanting of mantras. Of course, you do it in Western magic as well, but specifically in the Eastern tradition, you have Sanskrit mantra. And these specific mantras, ambulance, something. Anyway, you have these specific mantras that correspond to planetary energies and the planets and the gods of the planets. So another way to connect with those type of higher planetary energies, those macrocosmic entities and energies, would be to have to recite the Sanskrit mantra that relates to that planet and that planet's god or goddess. Another thing in relation to that is that not only does the mantra connect you to the planetary energy, but it also connects to a certain energy center and chakra within the aura and within the body itself, and specific organs. Planets are related to specific organs in the body. So by doing this practice of chanting or of meditation through these mantra meditations, you can be balancing you can be promoting health within the body as well. And as you know, I am very much all about body, mind, and spirit, and the health of the body and physical fitness. And this is something that you can do as a devotional practice that will help all three. So again, this is some things that we can get into more in the new devotional series, but it's something I've never heard mentioned before, and it's just something I definitely wanted to put out there. So saying is, it's a practice that I do, is I will, say I will do a form of mantra meditation on the appropriate day with the appropriate planetary mantra. They're not long. This is not like the super long, like the Gayatri mantra, long form or anything like that. But, a few minutes of your day. Again, not trying to overwhelm anyone with a whole bunch of information, but, this is good stuff. So I recommend you check it out and, keep it in mind. But, yeah. I think I've went on long enough, at least for this time, for the Intro to Devotional Practices series. And yeah, that's about it. Sorry again for the technical difficulties, and hopefully this video will work right. So I know it's going to be a long one because of that, but Anyway, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And I thank you guys for watching and joining me today. Please look in the description for any of the video links I mentioned, as well as links to my social media, my blog. And as I said before, we got team merch. So if you are a CSO, a common sense occultist, and you want to show it proudly, grab a shirt, grab a mug, a pillow, a bag, something like that. Anything. It's all HGA approved. So yeah, we got all kinds of cool stuff at the merch store. Link below in the description. And if you do wish to support the message and become a part of the team, there is a link to my Patreon as well. Some really cool rewards when you come aboard and join the team as patrons. So check that out as well. And yeah, that's about it. Thanks again. Sorry about the technical stuff. Still very much a learning experience, as I've stated many times. So thanks for bearing with me and learning along with me on this journey. So yeah, everyone go create yourself a magical day, and I will see you very, very soon. Love is the law. Love under will.